Hey everyone, Tim Schofield here, and I'm still working on my full review that's coming very soon. However, I did promise that I would do a more in-depth look at the dual camera on the back of the Galaxy Note 8, and of course I'm using the front-facing camera right now, but I figured I'd give you a little taste of how the microphone sounds when I'm video recording, and also just a look at video recording on that front-facing camera. To begin, I want to take a close look at that dual camera system on the back of the Galaxy Note 8. And you'll see with the two lenses, on the left side is where the telephoto lens is, so that will give you up to 2 times optical zoom, so not using digital zoom. And then the one on the right is the wide angle lens, which is pretty much your standard lens. Also worth noting that both of these lenses have optical image stabilization, which is really great. The first phone to actually have dual OIS in their phone, and the iPhone X will actually have that once it eventually comes out. But the Galaxy Note 8 has been out and does have dual OIS. And for those of you wondering, I did get tired of getting so many fingerprint smudges and just grease smudges on the back of my Note 8, so I did put a slick wrap on it. I think it looks really clean with this black look to it, and of course adds some extra protection, even to those lenses in that camera as well. I will link to it down below if you're interested. One of the first things I'd like to explain is that telephoto lens on the left, because it doesn't always get used, and I don't think a lot of people quite grasp that. You are not always getting 2 times optical zoom when you use a telephoto lens on a phone. Now, this is the same as that of the iPhone 7 Plus and also the OnePlus 5 as well. So let's go into the camera app, load it on up, let's snap a quick picture, let's zoom in and snap another picture. So you'll see zooming in, it should use the optical zoom because of the lighting conditions that I'm in. And real quick to test that out, what you can do is just cover up that top lens after you zoom in. So go ahead and zoom in and then just cover up that top lens, and you'll see it's covering it up. It'll sense that it gets covered up and switch to that wide angle lens. So that's what happened. I'm still covering up that telephoto lens, but if I zoom out and zoom back in, it will just stick to that wide angle lens because it knows that I'm actually covering it up. And then of course, once you let go of it, it should switch back to using that telephoto lens, and it did as I go ahead and cover it up. And that's of course in the lighting scenario that I'm in. So I'm going to turn down my LED lights real quick. Now as you can see, I've turned on my LED lights, and what's going to happen is I can snap a picture, I can zoom in and snap another picture, but right now it's not using that optical zoom lens. It's not using the telephoto lens. I'm going to cover it up. I'm covering it up right now, and you'll notice it didn't see my finger. You'll see I'm covering it up. It is actually using that wide angle lens right now, and that's because of the lighting that's in the room right now. It senses how much is in there and how much actually good is going to come out of using that telephoto lens, and it determines that using digital zoom will come out with a better picture than as if it used that telephoto lens. And next, I want to talk about the camera app in general and what you can do with those dual lenses. The camera opens up quickly. I've never had an issue where I've had to wait for the camera to actually open. You can open it from the lock screen by swiping up from the right here, or also double pressing the power button, and that will activate the camera. Now within the camera app, you'll see 3 options: Bixby Vision, Live Focus, and Stickers. So I'm going to show off Bixby Vision real quick. Nothing too different from the S8 and S8 Plus. What's going to happen is you point the camera at some sort of object. You can hit text, and you can translate some sort of text if it's an image, or you can go shopping. So it's going to go ahead and sense what this object is, and it says Zoom H4n handy portable digital recorder. So it knows what this actually took a picture of, can come in handy. I don't use it too often myself. It is really neat technology though. On the right side is a stickers button, and this is kind of similar to what Snapchat has. You can put some sort of stickers on your face. I honestly have not ever used this, but you might want to if you're in the market for that. And of course you can add stickers as well. You can download them on the side. I'm going to skip live focus for just a second. I'll show that off in a little bit, but you swipe over to the right to get to your filters. Filters is not something I really use generally either, but they are there. And then of course you can swipe over to the left, and this is where you get your options, where you can get to a pro mode, a food mode, panorama. There is of course a slow motion, which I did like to play around with. And it did work fairly well. I was pleased with how it did capture the slow motion. Not something I use all the time, but it's kind of neat to just try out something to use. And there's just a quick hyperlapse mode as well. And of course, always great to have a pro mode on there. We can change your aperture, focus, white balance, ISO, anything that you could think of, and get some really more professional shots instead of just using auto. On the bottom left side here, you can switch to the front-facing camera if you'd like to. And then here's a quick little shortcut to actually change the aspect ratio of your camera. So normally it shoots in 4:3, which uses that 12 megapixel camera. So this is a 12 megapixel camera. Both lenses are 12 megapixels. However, if you switch and use the expanded version, it's going to go into full screen mode. However, if you go into settings, you'll see the picture size is now a different ratio, that 18.5 to 9, so it uses a 7.9 megapixel camera. Now if I go back and kind of condense it, it will switch back to that 4:3 aspect ratio. Let me show that a 4:3 aspect ratio using the full 12 megapixels. Quickly, you can turn the flash on, auto, and off, and then the settings in the upper right-hand corner, where you can actually change your video size. They do have all the way up to 4K, however you can use 1080p 60 frames per second if you'd like to, and customize that to your liking. Overall though, nothing too insane. There's timers you can use, shooting methods, so you can tap the screen to take selfies, tap heart rate sensor, or show palm as well, and it will take a picture of you after a few seconds. You can choose to have the volume keys do something different rather than take pictures. You can have a record video, zoom, or system volume, and you can voice control, so smile, cheese, capture, shoot, or record video to control your camera. And speaking of zooming in as well, one little nice feature I have, instead of just tapping on the 2x icon to actually zoom in, you can actually use the shutter button, which is this white button, and just kind of drag it up and slowly zoom in as much as you'd like to. You can kind of change up to 2 times is where that optical zoom comes into play. But if you do want to go more, it goes up to 10 times digital zoom. But you'll see it's nice to get a precise zoom, 5.6, 5.5, go really slow, or you can speed up as well. I'll give you better examples in just a second, but I do want to show off the live focus mode. Now you'll see here it stays about 4 feet away from the subject, and it will let you know when it's available, whether it's a specific angle, how far something away from you is. You see live focus is available. You can customize the blur in the background, whether you don't want any. You'll see all the way down, or if I swipe all the way up, it adds that blur to the background. So if I go ahead and snap a quick picture, it will go ahead and take a picture. Now on the left side here, you'll see dual capture. You can have that on or off. So let's go ahead and take a look at that picture we just took. Now, you do have the ability to adjust the background blur to your liking. So if you don't like how much the background is blurred, you can actually tone it down, and you'll see it will blur the background just a little bit, but not nearly as much if you had it up all the way. Now, the dual capture option is what I was mentioning up here. You see you have a close-up, but you can also go to that wide angle shot. So it takes a picture with both of your lenses, which is really awesome. So of course, with that close-up, it used that telephoto lens because of how close it is, but you can also check out what the picture using that wide angle lens is, of course without any blur in the background, but you will get an original picture out of that wide angle lens. Here's just a couple pictures that I took with live focus, and you see the stop sign in focus, and in the backdrop you got a couple buildings and some trees that are out of focus. And this is all artificial. You see here some flowers with the backdrop fake as well, and this is all artificially done on the phone. However, it is a really nice feature. It doesn't look too fakey in my opinion. When you take a picture even of a person, the backdrop doesn't look too fake, but you do need to make sure you line it up correctly, are the right distance away from the object you're trying to use as well. But overall, if you get the right scenario, it does start to look really good. And here's just a quick 4K video I shot outside using the back camera of the Galaxy Note 8 in 4K quality. Overall, it captures just about everything I would expect a mobile phone to capture, really, as long as I'm holding it still. Although the optical image stabilization does do a good job. You see I'm getting up real close right here. I'm trying to hold it steady, and it does a good job at making sure it's not insanely jittery. You see when I walk, you'll see a little bit of choppiness, but that's just me not holding it very steady. If you had a gimbal, it would look just fine. And then if you go ahead, and of course a tripod as well would help. And here's just a couple more far away shots using this phone. You'll see some geese. Luckily they didn't come near me because geese are just the worst. And you'll see it does have that 2x zoom button as well. As I pressed it right there, it zoomed in on the geese. And then going back to the flowers and the bees, here's just another example using that 2x button to zoom in while shooting video. I also want to take a look at some of the low light shots I took with this phone, and with the optical image stabilization being on the lens, it does a fantastic job in low light, even if I'm not necessarily holding it still. These are, and overall the pictures taken look brighter than they do in real life. This wasn't necessarily a great lighting scenario. However, you can still get the colors. It doesn't lose a crazy amount of detail. This one was an even worse lighting scenario inside. Really not much light whatsoever. And you can still kind of read the text. It doesn't lose a lot of quality. And it just looks brighter overall after you take a picture. I also want to give a couple more examples of what that telephoto lens can do in terms of far away and then zoomed in. And it takes some really great shots, and this is one of my favorite ones of these three buildings out there with the trees and the water, but you can still zoom in and it looks like you're much closer to those buildings. And even just animals, you don't have to scare them away. You see that butterfly, and this is just a shot that I took that I liked, and another one out in nature. And overall, that's just about everything I wanted to cover with the Galaxy Note 8 camera. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. I do plan to do future ones similar to this, so if you have any recommendations, suggestions, drop a comment, let me know. I will really appreciate that from you guys. And hopefully you enjoyed this video. Click that thumbs up if you did. Click that subscribe button. Full review of the Note 8 very soon. And as always, guys, thank you very much for watching.